What is up, guys? Welcome back to another GeekaWhat video. And in today's video, I'm going to be building an awesome 4K gaming PC build inside of Lian Li's new O11D Mini V2. As one of my favorite compact cases of the last few years finally had the improvements it needs, and if so, what parts should you build inside of it? Well, today I'll be walking through just that with some awesome components that look amazing and are going to provide great performance too. So without any further ado, let's dive into it. Corsair Custom Labs is here and supports a wide range of products and components, now including PC memory. Simply choose your desired Vengeance ARGB configuration of speed and capacity and pick from one of the amazing custom designs. Whether you're into sci-fi or this amazing variation of cherry blossom, there's a myriad of options to pick from. You can match your peripherals with the same Custom Labs design too for a fully unified gaming setup, and even configure multiple product designs at once with live renders. Learn more about Corsair Custom Labs and check it out for yourself at the first link in the description below. Now, before diving into the case, I want to talk a little bit about the CPU I've gone for in today's build, because the eagle-eyed among you will notice that the processor is not a 9000 series chip. Oh no, this is the last gen 7800 X3D. Now, the reason I've gone for this processor in today's build is that I wanted to get amazing performance, but also try and save money in a few key areas. The 7800 X3D provides basically the best performance you can buy right now, apart from the 9800 X3D, of course. And some of the recent price drops on this chip, presumably that's AMD looking to offload some stock to focus on the 98, make it a tremendous value proposition. In fact, here in the UK, you can find this for around the £350 mark, and over in America, at the time of filming on Newegg, for around $370 to $380, a pretty big $100 saving compared to the 9800 X3D. Now, I'll be pairing the 7800 X3D up with this GPU. This is the AORUS RX 9070 XT. Now, I did a video recently where I talked about the best high-end 1440p combos, and I included this GPU, and everyone said, James, it's a 4K graphics card. You have lost your marbles. In many respects, you're right, but it's both. This is going to be a great entry into 4K gaming. 4K high, you're going to have no problems in all the latest games. You've got 16 gigabytes of video memory. You've got rasterization performance that recently is actually outpacing the RTX 5070 Ti, and it does so in a package that at MSRP is incredibly competitive. The asterisk there on MSRP is quite a large one. GPU prices are still a bit all over the place. AMD do tend to be slightly more expensive comparative to MSRP than Nvidia, but those prices are coming down. And I'm seeing in our data that more of you guys are starting to pick up GPUs at semi-reasonable prices, which is great. So that's the CPU and GPU combo. Let's have a look at the case, shall we, before diving into some of the other parts today. I'm going to have to place the case down a bit more gently than normal so I don't knock over this, the leaning tower PC hardware. Now, this is the... I'm going to move this, actually. Now then, the Lian Li O11D Mini V2. Now, there's a few key improvements with this case to talk about. The first is, like all cases right now, we've got that edge-to-edge glass. And if we look at this leading edge of the glass, it's actually at a 45-degree angle. The idea being that's going to meet the 45-degree angle of the glass on the front of the case perfectly. And Lian Li include a little protective sleeve for shipping, presumably to stop these from scratching around against each other. Now, inside the case, we actually do have some fans pre-installed, which I am going to be taking out. Sorry. You get 3 reverse blade 120mm at the bottom, and then 2 reverse blade intake fans on the side as well. Now, motherboard support remains largely the same, so we've still got room for a standard ATX size board, and yes, we have the BTF cutouts too. So if you want to install reverse connect motherboards, you can do that. Additional improvements include things like this integrated GPU support bracket, but the biggest one for me, this is the one I'm like the most excited about, and it's a very small but highly important thing, is... Oh, okay, the panel was toolless. Is the power supply. Because you can see here, the PSU actually sticks out. There you go, look at that, the bracket actually sticks out slightly. And on the side panel, you can see, we actually have the vents, which actually are taller than the side of the case. Now that's for one key reason, and one reason only. It allows this case to finally support standard ATX power supplies. The last gen model could only support SFX units, which was a problem because it limited the options you had. And given the size of the case, a lot of the cable runs on the SFX unit units weren't actually long enough in order to easily reach. So that is again another major improvement. Another key change is that the fans are now angled on the bottom of the case. I don't know whether this is purely aesthetic or helps with airflow, probably a bit of both. So that I think is probably the main improvements for me that are going to matter the most. Now with this being a smaller case, it's fairly compact, you aren't going to get things like room for 420mm rads. We can still put a 360mm unit or a 280mm unit at the top, which I'm going to be taking advantage of today. So talking about other components, let me talk you through the rest of the bits that I've picked. Let me start by talking about fans, and there are a lot. In fact, there's actually too many for what we need in today's build. We're going to need 3 reverse blade fans for the bottom. So let me find the, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we're going to need 3 reverse blade fans for the bottom. These are the Lian Li Unifan SL INF. They're the latest fans from Lian Li, and they're actually wireless, kind of, I'll explain in a moment. They're going to go at the bottom of the case. We've got a further 2 reverse blade fans for the side intake. I'm going to go and chuck on a standard blade fan at the rear for the exhaust, and then I'm a bit torn about the cooler. So I've obviously gone Lian Li because I want the whole thing to match, but the cooler does come with its own fans. This is one of Lian Li's more value-oriented options, their GA2 Lite. I do have the fans needed to actually fully equip the build and to replace the fans on the cooler so that they all match. It's going to push the cost up. You don't have to do it, but I think I'm going to. I think it feels right. Let me talk about the cooler fans. This is the Lian Li GA2 Lite 360. In a recent video, I actually tested more than 50 of the most popular coolers out there, and I'm glad to report Lian Li stack up pretty well. This is one of their more affordable options. Plain and simple, the 7800X 3D puts out a bit of heat, but it doesn't need a really elaborate, super incredible, expensive cooler. It's a pretty power efficient chip, all things considered, given how much actual kind of raw CPU horsepower it's got. In terms of the RAM and SSD that I've gone for in today's build, we'll start with the drive. I've gone for this 2TB Samsung 9100 Pro. It's a great Gen 5 drive that offers up awesome speed. Again, it's probably slightly overkill, but it's going to make the build feel a bit quicker. It's going to help with boot up times, and 2TB is perfect for a decent game library nowadays. In terms of RAM, I've got this, the G.Skill Trident Z5 Neo. Whenever it comes to RAM in a build that just looks the as we'd say here in the, we might have to beat that. It looks amazing. I love G.Skill's Trident memory. It's not sponsored. They've never sponsored a video on the channel ever. G.Skill, if you're watching, maybe now's a great time. Yeah, it's just really, really good. And performance on these kits is so good too. This particular kit is 6000 with a CAS latency of 30, which makes it quick and low latency too, which is always great to see. Let's give the power supply a little bit of love at this stage of the build. I've got this, the Corsair RM850e. Those of you who've watched a few of our builds recently will know I love this particular power supply. Fun fact, we actually use it in, or the RM range is pretty much our exclusive power supply at GeekaPC. For those of you that don't know, shameless plug time, you can skip this bit if you want. We sell some of the builds on the channel as pre-builds. It's currently UK only. Do you want to see us expand into America and start shipping our builds in the States? Let me know in the comments below. And equally, if you're in any other country and you want our builds, let us know and we'll see what we can do. There's loads of options at different prices, different aesthetics, and lots of them match builds that are published here on the channel. The reason we use this power supply in so many of our systems is there's a few different reasons really. First and foremost is great value, which always helps. It's fully modular too, meaning you only plug in the cables you need to, and you can see here we've got a nice fully modular interface right there. The other thing is it's natively ATX 3.1 and PCI Generation 5. That's great because it's going to give us the latest power delivery standards. And if I unravel the included cables, we get, where's it gone? Our native PCI Gen 5 cable. It's the 12 volt high power cable, and you can see the ends are slightly different colors. So if they're not fully plugged in, you can tell. The other thing I like about these is that they come like nylon. It's not braiding, but it's like sleeving. It looks actually quite smart, and I think means in some builds, you can get away with not having PSU extensions. These ones also come with built-in cable combs, which is a great addition. The final component to talk about is the motherboard, and this right here is NZXT's N9 X870E. Now, I've not actually built with this board. We've had it in the studio for ages, and I've been keen to take a look at it, and hopefully when I unbox it, you'll see the reason I've picked to use it in today's build. It's fully blacked out, so you've got all this built-in heatsink, heat spreader here. All of the kind of front panel cables and power cables are shrouded in this plastic. We do have a customizable RGB strip as well on the top of the I/O. All the connections are black, and then the rear I/O is pretty good too. I think we've got Wi-Fi 7 up here, optical audio, we've got 5 gigabit Ethernet. It's quite unusual. You normally see 2.5 or 10, and then loads and loads of USB ports, and they're all really well labeled, so you can tell exactly the speeds. So they're 40 gigabit, these ones are 10 gigabit, these ones are just USB 2, and then these ones here are 10, 10, 5, and 5. So that's really, really good and really, really clear. I think the board should be pretty toolless as well. I think it's magnetic, I want to say. Is it magnetic? No, maybe not magnetic. There is one screw which looks like it's holding on this top piece, but I wonder if it's also holding on the M.2 heat sinks as well. If it is, I would love to see NZXT make this toolless, but I guess there's only really one way to find out. Ah! I think it was magnetic this whole, well, sort of magnetic. So that goes in there. Ah, okay, so the retention screw does actually hold it on, but after that you have to pop it out, and they use, if we look here, two little ball pop joints, which ironically is the same stuff that NZXT are using in their cases. I've never ever seen that method used on a motherboard before. I might as well leave this off because we're gonna need to put the M.2 drive into there in a moment anyway. As I say, one of the reasons I picked it is because I think it matches the case really, really well. The case is super blacked out. This motherboard is super sleek and blacked out, and yeah, I think that's a pretty good match. So with that, I think it's time to start putting this thing together. And I'm gonna start off by installing the CPU. I'm sure you guys have seen this a million times before. Just gonna pop the CPU into the CPU socket, lid or something, like so, and then secure that down. I'm gonna do the RAM afterwards, which I already handily have unboxed. I'll be using the second and fourth RAM DIMM slots in today's build, just like normal, to get that dual channel memory performance, and then sliding the RAM into place. Nice and simple. So there's the first DIMM and of course the second DIMM. The final step of the motherboard assembly is the M.2 SSD. I'm going to use the small kind of end of a screwdriver just to peel off this protective film. This is what's going to look after the heat pad and keep the thermal pad nice and clean. Then I'm going to slide in the 9100 Pro. Drive's going to slide in nice and simple. Oh, that's a design flaw, look. Well, kind of. That I/O shield cover is a bit too big. Now it will go in. That's a bit crap. I think that definitely could be better. Ah, you push the drive. Okay, that's different. And then the cover is going to go back on. I don't mind this motherboard. It is just a little bit unusual. The way it kind of does some things is just like slightly, you probably wouldn't notice if this is your first or second build, but when you build a lot of PCs, this is a little bit of a different way of doing things, like the M.2 release, like how you take these little heatsink pieces off as well. I'm also going to check the cooler at this stage and just understand if there's any mounting hardware changes we need to make. And the best way to go about this is by consulting the manual. So you can see here, we've got AMD. Now, by the looks of things, yes, we need to remove the AMD stock mounting hardware, so take that off, add on these Lian Li plastic bracket pieces instead. And we can see here that we have arrows on these pieces for where the CPU needs to be located. So I'm going to start by removing that and then adding on those Lian Li brackets now. That's pretty much it for this stage. It just makes life a little bit easier later on. I swear half my life is just spent looking for screws. With the board ready to go, all the standoffs are looking in the right locations. It's good to double check, but on an ATX board like this one and an ATX case, the likelihood is they're going to be fine. We're going to slide the board in. It is going to be a little bit tight. It's a snug fit based on the fact this is the Mini. It's designed to be a more compact case. And there is one flaw to this. Well, there's a few problems. Let me put a few screws into the motherboard and then you'll see what I mean. So let's start at the top, shall we? So we've got one. That's a good start. We've got two. Top right screw. The middle left just about fits. The middle one is going to be a problem because there's heatsink in the way. Maybe we'll remove the heatsink later to get to what is presumably a screw hole. Let's go for the right one next. Screwdriver doesn't fit. Let's get a smaller screwdriver. Yeah, that is something to be aware of. A lot of screwdrivers aren't actually going to fit in the hole, so that's fine. The next problem is the fans at the bottom. They are going to be in the way of our final three screws, so I'm going to need to take these fans out. I'm guessing these bottom screws down here. Okay, that was actually, to Lian Li's credit, very easy. Oh, hang on, maybe not very easy. With the fans out the way, I can then go ahead and secure into place the final three motherboard screws at the bottom. And yes, we can access these holes, so good job NZXT, you've not blocked the bottom ones. And we're looking pretty good. I'm next up going to do the power supply, I think, for this build, just because the cabling and wiring could be quite tight given the size of the case. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in the appropriate cables and then run these to all the right places. Now, with that all sorted, I think I'm going to do fans next. This is looking pretty good so far, though. I'm quite happy, and you can see why the cabling was so important if I get the radiator, because once this goes in, there really is not a lot of room left for accessing pretty much anything else. I think it's going to look amazing, but as you can see, there's no way you'll get into those CPU power cables once the rad is actually in place. Now then, I think I'm going to do the fans next. We've got our reverse blade fans on the bottom, our 2 reverse blades at the back, our rear exhaust, and then also the radiator fans to deal with at this stage. Now, when I say these are wireless, the way this works is you add this little wireless receiver on, and then this plugs up via a fan cable, which is just going to give you your power. Now, you might think that's not very wireless. It's a fan cable. The RGB control element's wireless. So rather than, say, Corsair IQ Link, where you've got to run all the cables, this you just run up to the fan header. That powers the RGB in the fan, and then the wireless RGB control is done wirelessly through, I guess, some kind of like 2.4 gigahertz or Bluetooth protocol. And this should just slide on. And that's going to replace these fans just here that were at the bottom of the case. Okay, so there's been a lot of effort there, but I think it looks amazing. I think that effort was 100% worth it. And the next thing is the graphics card. Finally time to put in our AORUS RX 9070 XT. Haven't built with this particular model of 9070 XT in a while, so interested to see what it's going to be like size-wise. Yeah, okay, I think that's about right. It's bigger than a lot of 9070 XTs, but probably a bit smaller than the Asus TUF card. And as such, I think it's going to be a pretty nice fit for the build. Yes, that looks amazing. Matches the fans and stuff, I think, really very well too. Now, in terms of PCI lanes, it's the top 2 in today's build. Again, something to be aware of with this case in terms of height. That fan is going to block the very bottom lane, and if you've got something pretty thick, it might also get in the way. So just something to bear in mind. Now, we've got 2 screws to remove. So there's the first one. There we go. And the second one. You might also see there's a little plastic piece under the I/O shield. That's because you can move the motherboard down in this case, as you could with the other one. That's if you want more room at the top for things like radiators, I guess in a push-pull config if you're going to go for a custom water-cooled system. I'm then going to go ahead and just push the little PCI lane back. There we go. Get the card slid into place. Bit of pressure, and it's looking pretty good. Pressure? What pressure? That's going to make no sense for anyone watching this video who's not from the UK. Like full UK-only meme energy there. Anyway, right, so the graphics card is in, and we've just got some power cables to finish it off. And once that's done, I think it's time to look at performance. But first, how bloody good this thing looks, because I have a feeling when it's powered on, it's going to be pretty special. Okay, so this system looks good. I really love what Lian Li have done with this new chassis. It is a little bit more difficult to build in than some of their other options, just based on that smaller, more compact size. But boy, is it a good looking case. Now, in terms of performance, we've tested this build in a wide variety of titles, and all the results you can see on your screen now are at 4K high, with the exception of Fortnite, which we always test at 1080p competitive settings. Taking a closer look at some of these titles, and why not start off with Apex, our best performing title at 4K, and here the build pulled in more than 200 FPS, 240.1 frames per second on average to be precise. Call of Duty's Black Ops 6 at 4K high in the zombies mode also performed admirably well, 126 frames per second on average, not bad, while Doom the Dark Ages, which is a horrendously difficult game to run, at 4K high on the 9070 XT, which is a lot cheaper by the way than the 5070 Ti, 5080 or of course 5090, and more really of a 1440p GPU, still pulled in just over 60 FPS. The 0.1% lows were a little bit on the low side, we're talking 43.5 FPS, but still not too bad when you consider how difficult of a game Doom is to run. If you want to buy any of the parts mentioned in today's video for this system, you can find them linked at Amazon down below for latest pricing and availability in your region. Get subscribed to see more from me, thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.